r/AskReddit. What killed your relationship with your sibling? S. Backstory: my sister and I are 7 years apart. When she was in high school she started hanging out with the wrong crowd and got into drugs. She stole checks from my dying grandfather and stole about $60,000 from him. It was so bad my parents changed all the locks, nailed the windows shut, and put deadbolts on their room and mine. She became pregnant, didn't stop using drugs, and gave the baby up for adoption. She went to jail a few times for selling cocaine and weed and maybe pills. There are multiple other stories that show what a horrible human she is. Fast forward about 10 years and 2 children later. Her husband started cheating on her. My parents paid for her divorce and flew all 3 of them back to the same state as us. She went behind my parents' back and remarried her ex-husband. She has made so many terrible choices that she is no one I want a relationship with. I would never go to her for advice or support. I don't really care that I don't have a relationship with her because we never had one to begin with. Damn. They borrowed close to $25,000 and refused to repay me because all I do is sit on my ass and collect checks. I'm a disabled veteran. Sue them. No receipts. It would my word against theirs. Left some boxes of my possessions in her trust with the understanding that I would send her cash once a month and she would put them in a storage unit for me. I was moving to another country, you see. She then proceeds to waste the money meant for my storage on her failing finances. She then demands more cash, or my stuff would end up at the dump. I stupidly agree. And she turns round and says, "Oh, I wouldn't have dumped your stuff. No. I would have sold it on eBay." I sent her an email cutting both the gravy train and any ties we had. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll bite anyway. Did you ever get the stuff back? Nope. All gone. The biggest loss was my collection of vintage Transformers. They are sorely missed. I have a new collection now, but it still bites. You know? My sister randomly started treating me like hit 2 years ago. Everyone's noticed it, but no one knows what her deal is. Gives me looks of disdain every time she sees me, and will randomly look for excuses to badmouth me and put me down. And if she can't find an obvious one, she'll actually make one up. I've asked what her deal is, but she continues to do it. It's mentally and emotionally taxing. So now I just avoid her. I have no interest in trying to set things right at this point. Any random weight loss or successful efforts to become fit. Edit. I live in a very drama-filled social circle. I just kind of observe from the sidelines while everyone causes fights and takes hit fits. Usually, hitty behavior for no reason is plain and simple jealousy or envy. Yeah. My job has me in motion at. So I've lost a pretty decent amount of weight. But she was the one always saying "you're so fat," or "you need to lose weight." So I don't see why she'd be mad at me actually doing it. Also, the weight loss only started occurring this year, so it wouldn't explain the last 3 years of her behavior lol. Not me, but this happened to my cousins, brother and sister. Several years ago, both my uncle and aunt were diagnosed with terminal cancer the same calendar year. Even though they were both in the late stages of their respective cancers, they survived for quite some time, and so they required a lot of care. Their daughter was forced to quit her job so she could look after both parents during the long, gruesome period before they passed away. Not sure exactly how long it took, but I want to say it was around 1.5 years where my cousin went through mental and emotional hell looking after her elderly parents awaiting their passing. Meanwhile, her very wealthy brother lived just a few miles away from their parents. But being a VP of a very successful bank, he was pretty busy and so was unable to assist outside of providing a tad bit of financial support to her sister while she was looking after their parents. Eventually, their parents both passed away within a few weeks of each other. While my female cousin was obviously very upset about the passing of her parents, she was honestly a bit relieved that A. her parents no longer had to feel the pain of the cancer destroying their bodies, and B. she didn't have to look after them anymore and could return to a hopefully normal life. After they buried their parents, they met with their parents' lawyer, who revealed to them that they each had a life insurance plan that totaled over $1.5 million. However, They assigned both policies to the son. And so it was up to the son to decide if he'd give any of the money to his sister, which he unfortunately decided against. He kept all the money for himself and didn't share any of it with his sister, arguing that he gave her more than enough during the time period she was looking after their parents, and that he had no obligation to share any of the money. My female cousin was absolutely heartbroken that her brother wouldn't share any of the money, and she was too mentally exhausted from the nearly 2 years of looking after her parents that she just did not have it in her to obtain a lawyer to try to get her share of that money. She just decided to cut ties with him, and so they ended up not speaking for several years. I'm pretty big on family and forgiveness, but I absolutely support my female cousin for cutting ties with her brother and not speaking to him since that incident. He's a huge dirtbag, and so I'm glad they're no longer talking. This is probably one of the worst things I've read in here. That's absolutely disgusting. People who take care of the sick and elderly tend to get the shortest end of the stick. My mom spent a few years caring for a very sick elderly woman. Put lotion on her legs for her skin condition. Came and sat with her so she wouldn't have to be alone. Was the only one willing to go to the effort of giving the poor woman a shower every week. And even put the medical ointment on her when she developed problems in private areas. My mom did this and wasn't even related to the woman. This lady was the mother of my mom's jerk boyfriend, and later ex-boyfriend. No one in Jerk's family would lift a finger to help the poor old woman. And her husband was in declining health as well. So my mom stepped in to make sure the nice old lady would be taken care of. When the woman passed away, my mom wasn't expecting to get anything. She wasn't even family, after all. But what broke her heart was that they didn't even invite her to the funeral. Didn't say a word about it to her until it was over. Since my mom doesn't get along with every member of the Juk family, no big scenes or arguments. But not on great terms still. They decided not to invite her. Our parents. They always played us against each other. Let my older brother abuse the duck out of me, stitches, bruises, burns, etc. with zero consequences. Laughed when my little sister was mean to me. Mocked me if I complained, etc. Just remember all that when it comes time to put them in a home. And between now and then, keeping doing what you can to improve your own life. You asked for our first available room? No. I asked for your worst available room. My adopted twin brothers won't stop having children. They started at 17 and haven't stopped in over 10 years. I think they have over 10 between them. They won't work. They won't move out of my parents' house. My parents are both approaching 80, are extremely poor, and have to deal with the endless parade of hit-head children from these worthless people. Adopting them destroyed our whole family. I stopped speaking to my entire family 5 years ago because of my hatred of my younger brothers. All I want to do is tell them how much we all hate them. They are a ducking cancer that won't go away. All they do is take. I find my anger towards them getting worse every year. This borders on elderly abuse. Not much different than child abuse. The irony is that we adopted them from the worst possible home situation. They were 8 months old when we got them. In partial full body casts from severe physical abuse and withdrawing from crack cocaine they were prenatally exposed to. We gave them every chance in life. Every therapist. Every school tutor. They were given a normal childhood in a normal neighborhood. They have never stopped taking from my parents. I can feel my blood pressure rising just thinking about them. My sister M is a total duck-up. Hit parent with a record a mile long, did 6 years at one point, who openly resents me for not being a duck-up and making a life for myself. The last time she went to prison she sent me a 10-page letter unloading why her problems are completely my fault because I didn't take as good care of her growing up as I should. How unfair it is that I have things I don't deserve and what an asshole I am for calling CPS when her meth-addicted boyfriend beat their kid bloody with a belt. That wasn't even what got her sent to prison. Her 7th felony conviction for burglary did that. I didn't respond except to tell her good luck in prison. I didn't respond except to tell her good luck in prison. A 20-page reply I've copied and pasted not my fault would send her railing. I would just write a letter in ink. Simply saying, K. Me moving away. I joined the Navy at 18. I was away for 4 years while my siblings started their own families. When I came back, I was the outsider without kids. I left again a few years after that. So now I'm a stranger. I call my brother and sister on their respective birthdays, but it never gets reciprocated. Maybe you need to fight them in the octagon for $5 million? Warrior? I wouldn't say killed. But she repeated things that I said to her to other people, which kinda made me talk to her less. That happened to me once long ago. Now I just assume I can't tell certain family members anything in confidence and expect it to remain private. I only tell them things that I don't care if the whole world knows. Which really isn't much considering how I like my privacy. I don't trust a single person on this planet from all the times I've been burned. Being domineering and arrogant about their own opinions and always looking down on me because I'm very much the youngest. Even now. Married for many years and with 2 astonishing young adult children of our/my own. I get told, aren't you clever or didn't you do well? If I never saw them again it wouldn't bother me. They've never been interested in me, my lifestyle, my interests, just in pushing their own agendas and trying to make me look small. This sounds exactly like one of my siblings. My sister in my case. Except I do love my niece a lot and want to have a relationship with her, but OFC. She has all her friends' newly minted aunts too. That really pissed me off. Still does. I wonder how many people in this thread actually did something wrong and just won't admit it. Welcome to Reddit. Welcome to everywhere, mate. I started making more money than them and now they suddenly think that I'm the world's biggest asshole because I don't help out enough. I busted my ass to get my engineering degree and have a good life and they're both college dropouts who think everyone owes them something. You don't owe them it. No one owes anybody anything in this life. Drug addiction and crime. He's not mine. Not yet dead but very strained. Back when I was young and the PS3 first came out I got one and almost immediately he stole it and pawned it for pill money. Fast forward a couple years he's got a kid but his wife is raising her while he's in prison for bad checks. They split while he's locked up, a ducked up situation on my ex-Sil's end. Fast forward a couple years he's in court with his ex over back child support. I agreed to loan him the money that I had to go borrow myself. And he'd give me or our mom the money to pay the note off. Didn't happen. Also, he named my niece Arian, pronounced like the constellation Orion. Luckily, that's not the name she goes by. Just her middle name. This is also really hitty because fat PS3s were like $600 when they came out. That is one of the worst names I've heard for a child. It's a repost. So, in October, my brother-in-law got arrested. Charges of trafficking of a child and child enticement, prostitution. We found out when we saw it on the news. Quotes from the news from his own statements were that he was trying to pick up a prostitute and it was suggested that an underage girl, 16, was available which he was okay with. He made bail and my sister decided that even with the charges and him admitting to also seeing prostitutes in the past, they were going to work things out. Next up, Thanksgiving. We host. And we have 2 daughters. 12 and 15. I let her know that she and her son are welcome. He is not. Q mom. Oh. You need to forgive him. He's really remorseful. Sorry. Not comfortable. Mom. Your sister is really upset. Sorry. But our kids come first. Then I finally talked to my sister who says they aren't mad and totally understand. Okay. Cool. Mom is just overreacting. She also said that the charges aren't what really happened. He said and the quotes aren't accurate and he's totally innocent because he said so. Okay. Next up, Christmas. They host. We politely decline. Q mom. I don't see why you don't want to go there. We aren't comfortable bringing our daughters. They aren't comfortable with it. Mom. Why not? We talked with them. Explained the situation and what he's charged with. We are not comfortable having our daughters around him right now. Q mom's grapevine with a text from my sister. I can't believe you told your daughters that he's a child molester, which we didn't. We read the charges to them and answered questions as best we could. I didn't reply. I'm tired of us justifying why we put our own kids first before him. So my sister has cut off all contact with us. Still texts my eldest. And my mom is siding with them. We don't feel we are in the wrong here. We will always protect our kids above all else. If mom and my sister feel otherwise, so be it. Update. Mom thinks I should apologize and make up. I refuse to apologize as we didn't create the situation. B. We didn't cut off contact completely. Good on you for protecting your kids. I realize that your mom is in a hitty situation and is probably struggling to accept the fact that your brother-in-law committed such an egregious act. But it's completely unacceptable to place him above any sort of blame. I don't know you, but I'm proud that you've stuck to your guns and have kept your daughters away from such an environment. There's absolutely no need for them to be placed in questionable circumstances, nor does your mom need to play the role of the gatekeeper for all of this. If the situation continues to arise, I would say something to the effect of "I'm sorry, but we don't feel this situation should involve your input. We've voiced that we do not feel comfortable hosting our daughters in such an environment, though I'm sure you've tried every line in the book short of cutting her out completely. You're absolutely right, there's nothing for you to apologize for. I'd say that you're actually the one that deserves an apology. But saying that would probably create more drama than it's worth. He raped me repeatedly for about 2 years when I was a child. I still have to live in the same house as him too, and my family never believes me. I like foxes. That's the current goal. I just have to finish school and save enough money. Offered him and his very pregnant wife a room in my house that I could barely afford. They did nothing helpful and drove up my utilities. When I asked them to help out around the house because they were making a mess, or to help with utilities, they decided to trash my house while me and my fiancée were away on a mini vacation and send pictures to both of our exes. My fiancée was taken to court and it went terribly because we couldn't afford a lawyer. Fiancée becomes ex-fiancée and moves out of state to try and get her kid back. My ex-wife tells me she will do the same if I get back with fiancée. I already had problems trusting people because of my ex-wife. I finally found someone that was so genuine and made me forget all about that. I let my brother and his wife live with me because I was homeless at one point and it was hitty. Now I feel like I can't trust anyone and I feel beyond horrible because of what happened to the woman I love, who I can't even be with now. Most days I sit in my house alone. I don't want to go outside in public because why should I? Can't even trust my own brother. Thanks for reading my bitching, haha. Feels somewhat nice to type, I guess. For what it's worth, I read your story. You're not shouting into the abyss. Thank you. That means more than you know. After she turned 18, my sister lived with me for a while. She intended to get a job and go to school but did neither and eventually moved back in with our parents. I felt like we had a good relationship at that point and we were having an email conversation in which I opened up to her about some personal things. I'm extremely private and especially back then did not really open up to anyone, so it was a big deal for me to share what I did with her. I explicitly told her that this was a private conversation between us and not to mention it to our parents. She showed our parents what I wrote. She tried to play it off like she had just accidentally left the email open and they saw it. But it was at least a week after I had sent it, so I was always skeptical of the idea because her story didn't exactly make sense. Then my parents told me that she had showed it to them. So I lost all trust for her and it destroyed our relationship. Not killed, but strained, I guess. My younger brother joined the Marines a few years ago. I'm happy for him. He wanted to join as long as I remember and I support the military, was in the Air Guard. But I only see him once or twice a year now. Looking back, he was my best friend. It was my first year in middle school and I confessed to my brother that I had a crush on the girl that moved in next door. That night I was taking a bath and my brother whipped open the door with said crush standing there. I had to spend the next 6 years riding the bus next to her and was mortified every day. But are you two married now? Hahaha. No. That action had such an impact on me that I withdrew and was borderline antisocial. I never got the nerve to ask a girl out until I was in my early 20s. My bipolar sister was super intense to grow up with. I'm 16 years younger. She would steal my clothes and possessions. Yes, a grown woman stealing from her 10-year-old sister. She still lives with my mum and is very abusive to her. I've spoken to mum about it, but where else would she go? The sad part is I still think she'll change and get better. Thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe to RedditQueen for the best daily content.